to the Grow People podcast with Pastor Jason, who is not here today. I'm David Stein, discipleship pastor here at Revolution Church, and the purpose of the Grow People podcast is to help grow people. There is somebody else here in the studio today. It is Take Your Campus Pastor to Work Day. As promised on the last podcast, part two of the Matt Hayes experience.
What's up, fam?
Pastor Matt has two roles, campus pastor here in Canton, and also he is our young adults pastor. We talked a lot about just his path to ministry last time. Well, your path to ministry. We got to know you, your love for the Georgia Bulldogs.
That's right. Go Dogs.
And hence the Philadelphia Eagles.
Sure.
You want to give me a little EAGLES? No?
Listen.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
If you do it, I'll do it.
Okay.
But I'm not leading it.
Okay.
Because all the Atlanta in me would wither and die.
Oh, I don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
EAGLES. Eagles.
See, I gave you one.
Okay. Before we get started, couple of things. We have started our big summer outreach event. And if you were at church on Sunday or Thursday, you heard your campus pastor talking about this. It's called Provide a Child an Opportunity.
Is it really?
No, it's not. It's Give a Kid a Chance.
We changed the name? Trademark? Yeah.
It is called Give a Kid a Chance. It's one of our two huge outreach events over the last 16 years, Matt. We have participated in this. Over 20,000 backpacks
oh my gosh.
have been given away. This is an opportunity for our church and other churches to step into seasons of generosity in substantial ways, because we provide for almost 3,000 kids in Cherokee and Pickens counties brand new backpacks and school supplies.
The coolest thing is that how many other people are involved in this.
Yeah.
Like how many other churches. It's not just here's a Revolution thing we did. Like knowing that there's others around the community involved is so incredible.
Yeah, Hillside Church in Woodstock has partnered with us for years. We actually took Give a Kid a Chance over a few years ago. The two ladies that founded it, incredible ladies, and they came to us and said, "Hey, it's gotten too big.
Sure,
can you guys take it over?" So we did. So you have an opportunity not only to go onto the website and the app and purchase brand new backpacks, and these are backpacks that you would want your kids going to school with,
right?
And that's what's super cool about the event. You see all these kids come into the auditoriums at these locations, and they see, the big Adidas backpacks and the Nike backpacks and the Puma backpacks. So nobody leaves with, just a regular beat up backpack. So we want you to buy new backpacks. We want you to buy new school supplies. We've made it super easy. You just go to the website, go to the app, click on Give a Kid a Chance, and you can purchase everything online if you want and have it shipped right to the church.
That's right.
Or you could do what I actually like. I like going into places. I'm not a drive-in guy. I don't know about. I drive-through guy.
Wait, you like being around people? Hang on, David.
Okay, here's my theory on drive-throughs.
Okay.
They may or may not be faster. I don't know.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's very fair.
But you don't have an opportunity to engage with people.
That's true.
At the drive-thru.
That's true.
And that may be why you do the drive-thru.
I was going to say, that's exactly why 97% of the people do the drive-thru.
But I like going to a store, a big box store.
Yeah.
And touching the backpacks and picking up reams of paper and pens and buying all the school supplies.
Reams of paper. You nailed it with that one.
Thank you.
I don't know that I would have thought of that.
Yes.
That's exactly what it was.
It is.
Here's my question. When you were growing up, what kind of backpack did you always want?
We didn't have backpacks.
Oh, see?
We had book bags.
Oh, come on. Same thing. I wanted the JanSport one that had the leather bottom.
Yeah.
That was what I was dying to have.
Yeah, I wanted the yellow bean.
Ah, there he is.
Yeah, with the cinch top.
Out of the catalog?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Out of the catalog.
That's great.
I went to school in the Northeast. So I went to school in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where it was the norm to, get an itch and drive to Freeport, Maine to the yellow bean factory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, many guys did that.
Okay.
And I love a road trip.
And listen, and in order to be able to help with Give a Kid a Chance, you don't have to do that.
No.
Thank God for Amazon.
Yes. This was long before the outlets. And we could get into outlets because I grew up 40 minutes from the original outlets in the early set, like the
one of one.
The very first outlets.
Oh, wow.
They were built in factories that made the jeans and the underwear. So the Lee factory and the Vanity Fair factory were in Reading, Pennsylvania. And once a year on this horrific 40-minute drive with my older brother punching me and my mom, we would go buy school clothes.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I wind up living in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and then here we are.
Yeah. Okay. Any hoodles. Did we talk enough about Give a Kid a Chance? Yes. Go to the app, go to the website, buy the school supplies. Make sure you do that as quickly as possible so we can organize everything. You can also make a monetary donation on that page. Second, speaking of road trips, Mission Camp begins on Monday.
Here we go.
And this is the first time, folks, that Revolution Church is running their own mission camp.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Now, we always operate, our mission sites and we operate all the logistics. But for running the entire camp, this is the first time because we have 330 students.
It's awesome.
We have 83 team members and staff going.
That's so awesome.
413 people going to be on the road at Western Carolina University, home of the Catamounts.
Up in the mountains, man.
Yeah. You a big Catamount fan?
No, I'm a Western North Carolina fan. That's where I was born.
Yeah.
But get me up in those mountains all day long, the Smokies. I'll be good to go. I don't know much about the Catamounts, but I know that we're about to take over that campus.
Yeah. Good baseball school.
That's true. I do know that.
Not a great football school.
Probably not.
No. I don't think there are other Catamounts.
I don't even know what a catamount. Should we look up what a catamount is?
No, I know what a catamount is.
Oh, well, all right. Tell me, encyclopedia. What's a catamount?
Catamounts would be akin to your cougars, your bobcats,
Fair.
Your pumas. Call back to the backpack.
There we go.
Your leopards.
Yeah.
Those would be catamounts.
But that's your only one, though.
Your mountain lions. University of Vermont, I think, may be catamounts. Mm-hmm. I'm not.
No idea.
Not really sure.
That Northeastern game is not my game.
No.
Fly, Eagles, fly. That's not me, dude.
No. So we've got Mission Camp going. The two things about Mission Camp that we want people to know: make sure you have the Revolution app, and make sure you have the app notifications turned on, because starting on Monday, we're going to send an app notification every morning to everybody in the church to pray for Mission Camp, to pray for these 330 students, to pray for these 83 team members and staff members who are pouring into these students. What's wild is these team members are taking time off from work.
That's right.
They're taking vacation time. They're taking time away from their homes.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said houses.
It's the same thing.
It is.
Yeah. It is a house.
To pour into your students. So we're going to send you the prayer prompts each morning. We're going to send you the verses that the students are doing their devotional on, because they're walking through Hebrews. The entire week is called Greater, and they're walking through the book of Hebrews. It's going to be incredible. So that's one thing. The other thing, speaking of road trips, I almost said Tiger Tailgate Show.
Yeah. Oh, the callback, the recall to one of your 79 lives.
Yeah. The Grow People podcast will go on the road.
Yeah, well, dude, I'm so excited about that. It's going to be awesome.
The first time we're going to do a live recording. So one of the sessions, there are 8 sessions of teaching and worship at Mission Camp. Session 4 on Wednesday morning, Pastor Jason and I will be doing a live podcast on Hebrews chapter 6, verses 1 through 20. It's going to be wild.
This is going to be so awesome.
I love taking a show on a road.
Right. Well, and the experience for all the students that are there.
Yeah.
They don't, this will be the first time they've ever gotten to experience a conversation that they're getting to watch about the thing,
right,
as opposed to, they're getting to watch dialogue as opposed to just receiving monologue.
Right.
I'm really excited for them to have that.
We initially, I mentioned Tiger Tailgate Show when I was working for Clemson. We did not go on the road. And then once Clemson got really good,
they did
in 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. That's when we took the show on the road for playoff games and other big games. And doing the show from like the national championship site,
it's just different.
It's just different. You're right next to the ESPN booth, and it's pretty wild. But my favorite road show ever was when we were playing Louisville. In 2017. Take a guess where we did the Tiger Tailgate show from.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, it's in Louisville.
I was going to say, Louisville.
Louisville.
Well, yeah, as my friends who live there.
It's famous. It's probably one of the most famous sports venues ever.
Is the something with Louisville Sluggers?
No.
Okay. I know that the Louisville football stadium is the Kroger Stadium.
It is, but not there. They use horses.
Oh, wait, excuse me?
Yes.
You did the show from the Kentucky Derby?
From Churchill Downs.
What?
Now, it wasn't the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. From Churchill Downs, where the Kentucky Derby
From
happens.
the track.
Wow.
From the track. It was 2017, and I had just come on staff earlier that year, so I was the associate Jasper campus pastor.
It's a lot of words in the title.
It was. You could barely read my name tag. And I had to be at the Jasper campus at Pickens High School at like 5:30 in the morning.
Yep.
So we finished the Tiger Tailgate show. I watched the first half. This is Lamar Jackson was the quarterback for Louisville. Would
that have been his freshman year, sophomore year?
Well, he had just won the Heisman.
This is the junior year.
Yeah, he had just won the Heisman.
Oh my gosh.
And we destroyed him.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close. So I watched the first half, got in the car. I'm like, I'm driving the 8 hours. I'm just plowing through.
Right.
I got to Jasper, Tennessee.
Oh, man.
And I was done.
Yeah, not going to do that anymore.
Yeah. The hotel options in Jasper, Tennessee.
Right.
Not strong. Not strong.
Probably not.
I remember.
Shout out Jasper, Tennessee.
Yeah. I remember pushing a dresser in front of the door because the door didn't lock.
It's like a bad movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So got up real early, drove the other 2 hours to the Jasper campus, and
here we are.
There we go. But road trip. I don't know why I know all these. I couldn't tell you where my keys are right now.
That's fair.
Yeah. Okay. So those are the exciting things going on here at Revolution Church. When we talked last time, there were a couple of questions that I wanted to follow up on. Let me take these glasses off.
Your Stanley Tucci's?
They are my Stanley Tucci's.
Can we pause and talk about the reality of how much you look like Stanley Tucci? And I didn't realize it until this past week when someone in California, on your trip to California.
Oh, no, I was with my mom.
Yeah, you were with your mom.
Yeah.
You're at a wedding. You're there all week. And you send us, some of the pastors, a picture of you with this lady who is adamant.
Yes.
That she is taking a photo with Stanley Tucci.
Yeah. Mom and I were at a restaurant and minding our own business.
Yeah.
And this lady comes over and she's actually videoing herself walking over to the table.
Nice.
And it's LA, so it's not uncommon to run into people that are on TV or in movies. And she's giddy. She's probably late 50s, early 60s. And she goes, "Are you who I think you are?" And I said, "No, I'm absolutely not who you think."
But listen, what if she was at the Kentucky Derby at Churchill Downs and saw you do the Tiger Tailgate show and she was waiting to see, this is the David Stein?
No, that would not happen. That has never happened.
Or what if she was, listen, your mom's 94.
Yes.
What if she walked up and she was actually talking about your mom?
Could have been. Could have
That's
been.
not what happened. I'm just saying. Yeah. It's hypothetical.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a 94-year-old actor. So she then says, "No, you're saying you're not who I think you are because you don't want me to bother you."
Oh, wow.
And I said, "Who do you think I am?" And she said, "Stanley Tucci." I've watched everything. I love the cooking show. You got me through Italy.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm like, I'm not him.
Yeah.
And she goes, "You're just saying that so I leave." And I said, "Look, my name is David. I'm a pastor." She goes, "Oh, you're a pastor. I go to Mariners Church." I said, "I love Mariners Church."
Yeah.
So we start talking about that. And finally she sort of believes
I was going to
me.
say, maybe she's just doing that to warm up to you because, like, Stanley Tucci's an actor. He's putting on this thing, and I gotta.
Yeah, I think Stanley Tucci is like 5'4".
Oh gosh,
112 pounds.
I mean, all actors are teeny tiny.
Yeah. So she goes, "Can I at least take a picture?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool. That's cool." But I'm not him.
No. Oh, that's so good.
I am not him.
Sorry, I completely sidetracked.
No, you're good.
I have been waiting for that story to show up on the pod.
Pastor Jason and I usually take about the first 17 to 20 minutes to talk about absolutely nothing.
This is where, as I told you, you listen on 1.9 to this point. Then you can slow down and take it in.
Oh, no, don't listen at 1.9.
If 17 minutes, you're like, I need to get to the meat of this.
They're making the funny. This is where you get to know the pastors. This is, we got to know you well last time.
I know. And you know me well enough to know that I'm probably not going to lead you in the chant of Fly Eagle Sly.
That is correct. And you didn't.
I even see, you put the eagle green like behind.
We did.
It's a whole thing.
We
David.
did.
I get it.
Yeah. It was subtle. So, questions I did not get to last time, which I think are pertinent not just for your role as young adults pastor, but also your role as campus pastor, and with you and Pastor Jesse being the newest pastors here. Mm-hmm. What do you see that are the biggest challenges we face as a church, as a community, as believers in general, as a Christian organization? You've been a pastor at 12 Stone Church. You've been a pastor in the North Point system. Mm-hmm. Most recently at Woodstock City. Mm-hmm. What do you see as our challenges?
I mean, it's multifaceted because any church is going to face challenges that are specific to their expression or their style or their aim, their target.
Yeah.
I think last time we talked a lot about how the motivation that we have, I feel like I found such an alignment of being able to pastor at a place that has an alignment of the right motivation. Yeah. So for us, as we are growing and as we're continuing to reach more people in our community, I think it's going to be really important to not lose sight of that heartbeat. It's really easy to take your eye off of whatever your primary focus is. This is like a leadership lesson for anything in growth, and even in your family. Whenever your family starts growing, you can have a core set of values that you want to build your life on. You have a mission statement that you want to stick to, and then your kids start getting into sports, and then they get opportunities, and you see that they're really good, and it's like all of these other things, and your focus can shift just slightly enough to where all of a sudden you wake up a year later and you're like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
And I've just seen too many churches get caught up in the swell or in the game that momentum brings. And so for me, I just want to make sure that us as a church, we maintain that heartbeat. We maintain that primary motivation. The primary measure of success as a church is faithfulness.
Yes.
It's not a metric. It's not
right.
anything. This is maybe harsh in some language, but like, it's not an American capitalistic societal version of success. Right. And I think that the church has experienced the last 25 years some incredible momentum or some incredible energy from the leadership that happened in the corporate sector that's come into the church sector. I think that has, in a large way, accelerated a lot of the growth of churches. But whenever that becomes primary, you really lose the heartbeat. And I have not sensed us doing that at all.
No. And I can confirm that for you. I've been attending since 2014, came on staff in 2017. Numbers are not what we were after.
Right.
And the heartbeat of this church is faithfulness. And if it doesn't fit into being a generational movement of gospel multiplication, we ain't doing it.
Right. And if it doesn't, and that's why I love the simplicity of love Jesus, grow people. Full stop.
Yeah.
And the grow people side of things, right? This is where like healthy things grow. I know last time we talked about that. It's the reality of how do we find the ability to holistically get people to experience growth in their life towards the rhythms and the life of Jesus, towards the way of Jesus. And even the fact that we, disrupted all of the staffing patterns to move you into the role of being over discipleship, I think shows that there is a massive focus on figuring out how to figure out formation for the individual and for the family and for the community. To me, whenever that starts getting outside the walls of the church, and that's whenever the actual mission starts playing out in the community, it allows us, this is some language I've had a long time, but as a church, it allows us to move from being come and see to go and be.
Oh, that's so good.
Right? I don't want to create a place where it's just you consuming and showing up and then leaving and having nothing actually change in your life. We need to figure out the life on mission idea of how do we go and be this in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our schools, wherever it is you may be.
Yeah, the mission is, and we don't say it this way, but transform people and transform neighborhoods.
Yeah,
transform communities.
Right.
And we have said this so many times. We didn't come up with this, but if Revolution Church disappeared tomorrow, if the people of Revolution Church disappeared tomorrow, would the community know it? This community would know it. And sadly, there are churches where the community wouldn't. Hey, what happened to that church?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. They all went somewhere else.
Yeah. And so that is the heartbeat, and that you and Jesse are both aligned in that way.
Yeah.
Again, and I said this on the last podcast, that was God's kindness in the life of this church to bring you guys here at the same time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Glad we're here.
What challenges do you have personally?
Oh, man. I think that I feel like a lot of things in life exist in a pendulum. And on one side of the pendulum is very unhealthy. On the other side is equally unhealthy. It's the same idea of Jason's language of on either side of a road, there's a ditch,
Yeah.
So he
used the pendulum thing with me the other day.
In order for you to find healthy, refined, balanced, maturity, whatever that is, the next in life, so much of that requires you to get into that place of balance. And in order to do that, you overcorrect first, just like a pendulum swings to the side before it comes back to the middle. And so much of my life has been uprooted and disoriented in a big way the last 3, 4, 5 years. So the challenge I face personally is maintaining and making sure that all of the reorientation that God has done in my heart is maintained. I have a tendency to allow my insecurity to become a motivating factor in the things that I'm doing and why I'm doing them. And God, in His kindness, ruined me of those things and crucified a lot of that within me. And so it's again, in this current season of my life, it's the motivation. Why am I doing what I'm doing?
That's great self-awareness.
Well, it's a lot of counseling, you know what I mean?
A lot of other people making me self-aware of my awareness.
Yes, and it's a lot of intentional attention to my heart and myself and my walk. And I heard Vodi Bakum say it a long time ago, and I've kind of adopted it of, I want to be better today than yesterday, better tomorrow than today.
Yeah.
That's what I tell my kids. It's like this thing with our family, better today than yesterday, better tomorrow than today. And you can't do that unless you are aware. Like one of the worst things I think you can be as an adult is someone who has a lack of self-awareness, right? It's why American Idol was funny. And it's why it got views.
Yeah.
Because people would show up there and sing when they're tone deaf, thinking, I'm going to be a star.
Yeah.
No, you're going to be an embarrassment because you don't have any self-awareness to know that. What are you doing?
Or good enough friends to tell you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, unless you are intentionally doing it to be comedic, like that's one thing, but it's just like cringy and sad and really difficult to watch. And so whenever you look around and you see someone who doesn't have that self-awareness, it's like, oh, I wish you could just open your eyes to understand how much of, again, my language, how much of your insecurity is driving you. And I think that becomes this motivating factor of what you're doing.
That's why we need people in our lives.
Right.
We need mirrors in our life. I was in a meeting on Monday with some of the pastors, and I said, hey, you guys are my mirrors now. I don't have a mirror. So I'm going to ask you this question because I don't know if I'm seeing this correctly.
Wow.
And it goes all the way down to, and Pastor Jason has said this before. I mean, if you have a friend and they don't tell you you've got something hanging out your nose.
That's right. That's
I mean,
yeah. Please, for the love, just even like give me a signal,
Yeah.
Something.
I'm cool with in the middle of the lobby on Sunday. Hey, you got something hanging out your nose.
Yeah. I do get that. Just get that for your sake. Get that.
Yeah.
Real quick.
I'm going to go in the bathroom and get that.
Yeah.
It was an interesting season, the last, I would say, 5 years, and has nothing to do with COVID. But the last 5 years in our church, there became this gap. And from your church experience, there's always some gap.
Sure.
Whether it's generational or a particular ministry or a particular need. And we had a gap because we did not have a young adults ministry. And it was a season where there weren't that many young adults.
Yeah.
And then
this is the life cycle of the church.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, there were a lot of young adults.
Yeah. They all grew up. All those high schoolers grew up.
And some of them were living in Pastor Thad's house. Some were living in Pastor Chad's house.
Yep.
Some were living in Pastor Jason's house.
Yeah.
And so they took it upon themselves. And this is why they are such great leaders. They said, hey, we don't have this ministry, but there's a need. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
And they became the leaders of just having young adult small groups come to their house and pour into them. And then it was, we need somebody to take this over.
We should be gathering. We should be meeting.
Yes.
There's enough.
Yeah. And that was part of the impetus to bring you here. Obviously, you wear two hats as campus pastor and young adults pastor. But I think you've done such an incredible job of seeing what young adults need, that 18 to 25-year-old group, and casting a vision for that. So my first question would be, what do young adults need? They don't need the same thing that I need. They don't need the same thing that you need. What are they looking for? And what are their primary needs? If you're out of college and you're thinking about getting into the world, living by yourself, getting married, getting jobs, what are they looking for?
Well, the cool part in that is, if you're listening right now and you're an adult, or if you have young adults, or if you're a grandparent, I mean, no matter where you are beyond that season of young adults, a lot of the things that we experienced in that season of as a young 20-something, it's consistent in every single generation's young 20-something season. It's the first time in your life when your life is not regimented for you. And so now all of a sudden you have this freedom with a responsibility mixed in to figure out what you want to do. And so from in a church context or ministry context, when it comes to student ministry, when you have middle schoolers, you're bringing them here. When you have high schoolers, when they get their keys, they choose to come here. But once you get to that young adult season, no one is determining what you're doing anymore. And so in that season is when you're starting to build a foundation of what the rest of your life will truly be. And I think what's needed in that season, or maybe not even what's needed, because I don't know that the felt need is even as understood. To me, the thing that's primarily needed in that season for a young adult, what they're really looking for is, do they have what it takes? And who am I really? And so I love the way that Tim Keller said, if he was to start his church all over again now in New York versus when he did however many years ago.
Right.
Someone said, would you do anything different? And he said, a little bit. And they're like, oh, what is that? And he said, my primary communication that I'd go after in reaching younger generations would be all about identity. Because while we all were trying to figure out our identity thing in generations previous, the current generation of young adults is trying to find their identity, but the world around them is not operating with the same cultural subset of moral standards and values where we're all figuring out something that's aligned.
Right.
Now it is a free-for-all.
Yeah.
And so with no foundation of what truth is, with no foundation of what's best for you, when it becomes all relative, I think that just really elevates the need to, A, get back to the basics. Gen Z, who is now, really 18 to 25 is still Gen Z. Gen Alpha is coming behind. But Gen Z, studies would say, is the most entrepreneurial generation in Western modern history. That there are teenagers, young teenagers, that are going to conferences for entrepreneurs because of YouTube. They are doing it all themselves. But it's also the most the most biblically illiterate generation in Western modern history.
Really?
Yes. They don't have this foundational understanding of the Bible and of Jesus and of why that's even attractive. And so that's in the American context. I mean, I went to lunch yesterday with a guy who grew up in the Netherlands, and it's fascinating. I'm not surprised, I don't know, but it's fascinating that, like, he talked about the Netherlands is 20% religious. Like religious, not even like Christian or whatever, just any kind of spiritual connection. And the knowledge base that he had growing up in the Netherlands is so much different than what I've had in America. And we're continuing to trend further and further towards that in terms of a foundational truth. So I think that they're seeking, I think they're curious. I think that we see Gen Z would say that they are far more spiritual than some generations before them. But it's without a bullseye. It's without a tent pole to pull them towards. And so I think in that season, it's just trying to help people figure out and understand, who are you? And where do you get that from? Where is that coming from? Where are you pulling that from? Who's telling you that?
Right.
So it's very much an identity season where you're locking that in. Far more than what it is you want to do, far more than who you're going to end up with, far more than any of that stuff. It's really just, but who are you? Who you were in high school doesn't have to determine who you are anymore as a young adult.
Amen.
And who you are as a young professional doesn't have to be determined by who you were in college. So you keep getting to these next steps and seasons, but once you hit that young professional spot, you start to really lock in on, this is my story and these are the things I'm going to live out. So where's the foundation of all that truth going to come from? That's, I think, the primary focus.
So in a practical sense, what are you providing for young adults? I know we have a monthly gathering. We have small groups.
Yeah.
Where do you see, what's your vision for this ministry?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that is important whenever you're leading young adults, and again, this is any generation as a 20-something, even more so as Gen Z, is it needs to feel like it's something that's not just for them, but it's by them, because they're the most entrepreneurial generation.
Right.
And so with our young adults gatherings, we gather once a month at the Canton campus. We have people come down from Jasper. We have people in Cherokee County that come in, but we're really trying to start to shift it to where it's going to feel like when I show up here, the only people that are here are really young adults, and our young adults are going to begin serving in different areas and spots for the gathering on those Sunday nights. And then we're offering small groups where it really was, as you said, Thad and Chad were like, hey, we got a need for it. We're going to figure it out.
Right.
Is it going to be great? I don't know, but we're going to do something. Yep. Something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And so even the rhythm of small groups they've had have been a little sporadic. And so we're going to try to bring some structure to that, get a little more consistent, so that a young adult in this area can know that there are other people in the same season as me, that I'm not alone, and that even though everything feels different, this doesn't have to feel like graduated high school. Now, you're not in a season where you're probably going to be a young family. And whenever you show up on a Sunday morning or a Thursday night to one of our gatherings, you may not look around and realize, like, this place is filled with young adults.
Yeah, it is.
But you may not see that because the kids are running around and because there's grandparents serving and the greeters and like all these different, the multi-generational nature of us being a church. But I want them to understand and know, like, there is a thriving bedrock of a community of people here, and we see you. And it may not be that you find all of your people here, but to know that you can be a part of a church that even when you get out of this season, you're going to have a place you can still be. Because the wonderful part about a campus ministry, when you're in college, this isn't for a young professional, but when you're in college, the wonderful thing about a campus ministry is there's so much formation happening with people that are in the exact same season as you. But the moment you leave college, you're no longer like, and you start looking for the replication of what you had in a campus ministry, you're never going to find that again. So when you're in college, I would say find the campus ministry that's great. But even more than that, find a local church you can be a part of, because that's the sustainable model of what the rest of your life is going to be built on. So being able to show them kind of the experience and the expression of that. And then in our gatherings, I'm really trying to create it where it feels more like a dialogue than a monologue. Mm-hmm. I don't know that Tim Elmore, this guy who he does a lot with Maxwell Leadership, but he talks around the generations a lot. And in studying the generations, he's one of for the last probably 20, 25 years has been like on the leadership platform game. He talks about how each generation responds to authority differently.
Right.
And it's always a boomerang from the previous one. It's a rebound. So the Gen X had a negative response to authority. That's where the the grunge movement and all the like revolution stuff from the early 80s, like that was the...
Not this revolution.
So yeah.
Yeah. Revolution, a marked change in direction.
There you go. See, it's like you needed to know that because we named our church Revolution. But they had a negative response, and then millennials come around, and we're coddled by our parents and participation awards everywhere. And so we're like, yeah, of course, this is great. But our parents were boomers who had a positive response. So I see people who are up on stage or in authoritative positions, and I trust them because they're in authority. Mm-hmm. But now Gen Z comes along and they're like, hang on, I don't care where you are. I can do this on my own. YouTube teaches me everything, not my mentors, not my parents. A screen has raised me, not these individuals. Therefore, just because you're on the stage doesn't mean I trust you. So I had someone in their early 20s on my staff where I used to work say, if you are arrogant, if you are angry, or if you are absolute, I don't want to hear you. And I was like, geez.
Wow.
I know. And they named someone who's like very prevalent in that generation of like speaking to young adults and college students. And they're like, I don't like him because he comes across angry sometimes, because he comes across like he's arrogant in ways. And I'm like, whew.
I think I know who you're talking about.
So you are, So they are constantly putting a lens against you to say like, I'm not going to trust you just because you're on stage. Give me a reason to trust you and I'll give you my trust. And then when I give you my trust, I'll be completely loyal. But it's the idea of I got to win this generation over to understand I'm not here yelling at you. Mm-hmm. I'm not here telling you how horrible you are. I'm here saying, I get it. I've been there. The most formative years of my life were 18 to 25. So let me provide some wisdom so you can get it faster than I ever did.
That's so good to lead from experience and to be able to have the people you're speaking to, no matter what generation.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been through this.
Right.
I've gone through this. You are not horrible because you're doing this.
Right.
I did this.
That's right. We've all been there.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Do you have a vision for more gatherings?
I think that there's a desire for more gatherings from some of our young adults. The honest answer is in terms of just capacity. Mm-hmm. I think what I'd love to build. So if you show up on a Sunday night and you're a young adult, you're going to see that we have this room that's built for 1,100 people that we've tried to manipulate to work really well for 150.
Yeah, lots of pipe and drape.
That's right. So pipe and drape, some string lights. Like we really try to create a unique environment, a different vibe. We're not on the stage. We don't like have all the lights and haze and all the like really excellent programming and production. It is a little more stripped down, a little more approachable. So there's a desire for more. But what I want to be able to build first is a consistent community where people are able to gather together, not necessarily reliant upon showing up here to gather together. Mm-hmm. I want them to be out. I don't want it to be the come and see Matt teach show. I want it to be no, y'all go and be the community together in this season of life, whether you're at Reinhardt, at KSU, at your job, wherever it may be.
Yeah.
So in the current moment, we're still going to do once a month. We're going to be strategic about when that falls in the month, as opposed to it's got to be this every time. For instance, next year, Easter is on the first Sunday of the month. And so that won't fall for us to do young adults on Easter. So we're being strategic about when it is, but the hope is that there's multiple small group opportunities for people during the month. There's some social opportunities for them to be able to hang out, and then we'll gather together in a larger setting once a month still.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing all that about young adults. It's an awesome ministry. If you have 18 to 25-year-olds that you know, send them here.
Yeah, come on.
They don't have to know Jesus.
Right.
They will be welcomed here.
I hope in some ways that they don't.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of young adults who have a lot of preconceived notions about the church.
Right.
Or about Jesus, because they, this is a little bit of a rant, but 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago, this seeker movement began in the evangelical church. It's a wave that came through the church. And even if the church you were a part of wasn't necessarily sensitive towards that, it influenced a lot of what we did.
Sure it did.
And it's because every kind of movement of church has been a response to the generation prior and the expression prior. And so when all that happened and began, it really started to attract, and this is what, where I used to work, it was one of the focuses of how do we make sure that the unchurched person is showing up? And I think that was brilliant around the turn of the millennium, because that's when so many people were beginning to kind of question and walk away, or they were hurt by church or jaded by church, or they were over the legalism of church. And so there was a new expression that reached those people that would have said they're unchurched. But the reality is, if you still try to do that today, the unchurched people you were trying to reach back then still had an understanding of church. But if people are unchurched today, it's because their parents walked away from church in that generation and never came back. So they weren't unchurched in the previous generation, but now they're truly unchurched.
Right.
Which is why that foundation is so paramount. And so for me, I want to go back to the basics. If someone shows up and they don't know Jesus, I'm like, that's great, because let me show you who he is. I don't have to break down the preconceived traumas and hurts and misconceptions and all the difficulties. You don't have to unwind or deconstruct as much for you to construct in the proper way.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Come on, come on.
Yes. Usually first Sunday of the month. But just go to the website.
I know, it's going to be on a Sunday in the month.
Go to the website and click on Young Adults.
Yeah.
Okay. We are in our Summer of Psalms.
Yep.
Which is exciting, and it leads into Pastor Jason's preaching break, middle of June to middle of July.
Yeah.
He always does that. He takes time away to...
I'm so glad he does that.
Yeah.
That he can rest and not have to worry about the churn of being able to create. He can breathe.
And it's intentional. Yeah. There are things like when he took his first full-on sabbatical 2 years ago, it was a very intentional time of seeking personal counsel, seeking counsel for him and Lindsay, resting, vision, and then vacation.
Yeah, he unhurried himself.
Yes, yes. You and I love that book.
Yeah, man, it ruined my life.
Yeah,
in the best way.
And I think most of my problems as an adult, and I've been an adult a little longer than you, have been from the dysfunctionality of a hurried life.
Sure. Yeah.
And working 3 jobs, and that becoming the norm, to where the brain science behind it, the physical chemistry behind it, allows your body to keep going.
Right.
Until you stop.
You stretched your capacity to be able to say, this is normal for me.
And then when the stress meter gets stuck on open, that's when things happen.
Right. You can't stop.
Yeah. So he's very intentional about that. Very intentional with our board to make sure that he has that preaching break. So through this Summer of Psalms, you'll hear Pastor Jason as he started with Psalm 1 and Psalm 2, which were amazing lead-ins to this summer. And then each of us will pick a psalm and preach throughout the summer. Pastor Chad and you and me and our student ministers. So what have you thought about which psalm you're going to preach?
Yeah, it's, I make the joke on whenever I'm hosting on Sunday mornings of there's 150 of them. So are we doing all of them this summer? No, we will pick some. And maybe we'll do Psalms of Summer for the next 10 summers. You know? But where I am leaning is Psalm 145. The idea of the Psalms always speak to me because music is so big for me. like whenever I took the Berkman, the like profile thing with Craig Butler. Shout out Craig. What's up, dude?
Yeah.
But in the Berkman assessment, it talks about there's like 10 different things that are like elevated in alignment for you. And music is my number one. So do I play an instrument? No. Did I sing in literary chorus in high school? Sure. But I have music playing all the time. And so worship is big to me. And the idea of Psalms are big because they're meant to be sung. Like it's poetic, but it's meant to be as music.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was a Psalm that was put into a song by Shane and Shane when I was in college, Psalm 145. And the song it's so good and they are so talented. But I love it primarily because of what it does and in talking about God's character in spite of circumstances. And for me, probably the most formational statement of my life and of my faith that's non-scripture that I've ever heard is A.W. Tozer, line 1, page 1, chapter 1 of The Knowledge of the Holy. Says whatever comes into our minds and we think about God is the most important thing about us. Kevin Queen, instilled that into me when I was in my early 20s. I was 21 years old. For the last 18 years, I've been living with that as the foundation of my personal theology. And I truly believe whatever you believe about God and his character is the most important thing about you because it will determine how you respond to every circumstance in your life.
That's right.
You cannot control your circumstances, but you can always control your response to them.
Yes.
And how you respond is dictated by whatever you believe about God. And so Psalm 145 gets into the meat of like, so who is he? What is his character? And so many people, young adults and especially adults, sometimes have this skewed view of God that he is mad at him. Like, this is my personal thing. Everyone may not agree with it, but like, I can't stand the Jonathan Edwards sinners in the hands of an angry God. I'm like, that's not him.
No.
In his character, we see consistently through the Old Testament, he is slow to anger. And he is so filled with love and understanding his fundamental kindness through my suffering has been a massive, like the unlocking key to me being able to grow up spiritually. So Psalm 145 speaks to a lot of God's character. So I'm really excited to jump into that one.
Seeing God's wrath as his love for us.
Right.
Pouring out that wrath on Jesus.
Yes. And
his extreme love for us.
And it's I heard Tim Mackey explain it, that God's wrath is basically him just moving his hand. And so if it's not him like sending and causing and, obliterating, it's him removing his hand out of the love of giving us free will. His wrath is the allowance of us experiencing the things that we actually are wanting.
I'm so glad that you're going to speak to the character of God. I don't know if we've talked about the Tozer story that I encountered.
No. You know him?
Well, sort I helped him write Attributes of God.
Yeah. In which life, David? Yeah.
Fundamentally, early in my walk, so we're talking 2008, I had been a believer less than 2 years. I moved here.
Yeah.
I moved to Atlanta from Los Angeles, and it was a Friday night, and I knew nobody. I mean, I literally, I moved to Buckhead. I'm living in one of those cool, hip Buckhead apartments.
Yeah, you are.
And I'm walking to work.
Yeah, you are.
At midnight.
Oh, gosh.
Because I was on the air. I was on the radio from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.
What a life, man.
What a life. So I call the counselor that led me to Jesus over the phone a year and a half earlier.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what do I do? How do I know this God? And she said, I want you to study the attributes of God. So it's a Friday night. It's Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
So I start reading about God's character. And when I got to immutability, now I love the omnipresence. He's everywhere always.
Right.
I love the omniscience. He knows everything. I love the omnipotence. He's all powerful.
Right.
But when I got to his immutability, that he never changes.
You said, define immutability.
He never changes.
Right.
He can't go back on his word.
Right.
He can't go back on his promises. That was the one that got me. So it's Friday night, Labor Day weekend. Mm-hmm. The very next morning, one of my friends from California is in town, and we plan on going to breakfast. So Friday night, I'm reading Attributes of God from A.W. Tozier. Saturday morning, we meet at breakfast in Buckhead, and he brings a friend who lives in Alpharetta.
Yeah.
And he goes, hey, I want to introduce you to my friend, Eric Tozier. And I said, well, that's really funny because I was reading this guy. And at that point, I didn't remember, like, it was AW. I was like, I think it was IP Tozier, I am Tozier. He goes, AW?
Yeah.
And I go, yeah. He goes, that's my grandfather.
Shut up, dude.
He goes, I have the original Bible that he wrote, dude. Attributes of God.
That's wild.
Which to me, not a coincidence. Coincidence is a secular word for providence.
Yeah.
It was God saying, "How you're on the right track."
Hey, yeah.
You are on the right track. So I love the attributes of God. I love God's character because it's what we bank on.
Yeah.
If he's not those things,
I got nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. And this is when I was at my like absolute lowest point of my life. I was so depressed. I couldn't like get through my next day. I may have even told the story last time, but I was 22 years old. And my dad told me, he said, the thing about your faith, Matt, is that it's always been very emotional. And I can't relate to that because God to me isn't connected to my emotions. He is a rock who never changes. And that was the beginning of like a wake up for me of, so my circumstances don't affect him. They don't affect, and they don't need to affect my view of him. Now, the view of him is the filter through which I view all of my circumstances.
Right.
It changed my life. It changed the perspective of my life. It changed the way I approach and respond to every situation in my life. Like, if you're listening right now and you're in a season of suffering and things are difficult and they're not easy and they're hard, I promise you, the answer to you getting through this season is understanding who God is, his kindness towards you, that he is available to you, and his consistent presence with you through the midst of it. Like, full stop.
Yeah. And that comes from knowing him through his word.
Yeah.
That's why when Pastor Jason was preaching Psalm 1, I was in California with my family.
Yeah.
So
Stanley Tucci.
Stanley. Oh, you know, the kicker to the Stanley Tucci story, I didn't even think of this until right now. My mom, she's 94, but she is sharp.
Yeah.
But there are some things she doesn't pick up on.
She's 94.
She's 94. She started telling everybody we ran into, family members, strangers, there was a lady. She came up to my son and thought he was Joe Pesci. and she kept saying Joe Pesci instead of Stanley Tucci until I finally said, Mom, that's not a compliment.
That's right, yeah. You thought Stanley Tucci was short. Hang on. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm out in California, and everybody knows this who has been here a while. I am the only believer in my family. Yeah. So my brother is a Jewish atheist and doesn't even practice any Judaism. He's not even secular Jewish. My mom is staunch atheist, secular Jewish at best, and an activist for everything that we would disagree on.
Ideologically.
Yes.
It's not just spiritually, not just theologically, ideologically. Yeah.
Every social issue.
Yeah.
Then I go to a family wedding in La Jolla, which is just north of San Diego. And if the Kardashians had a wedding, that's what this would look like. Seriously. It was my cousin from Philadelphia. She was getting married. It was a great wedding.
Wow.
It was an awesome wedding. I got to see cousins that I haven't seen in forever.
Yeah.
I had a wonderful time. Took Mom. So 3.5 hours in the car.
Woo, boy.
And
you thought you didn't like that when you were 14. Hang on.
But in her walker, she goes out on the dance floor.
Come on, man.
And was dancing, and all the ladies are coming around her, and they're having a blast. Anyway.
94 and vibrant.
94 and vibrant.
That's awesome.
And I'm sitting there, and I had just listened to the message from Thursday night, and I'm thinking, being planted in the Word is prosperity. Mm-hmm. That was one of Pastor Jason's points. Mm-hmm. Being planted in the Word is prosperity, mm-hmm. not what I'm seeing here.
No,
not the Southern California vibe of look at me.
No,
it's being planted in the Word is the prosperity, because the Word does not wither.
Yeah, it gives you a perspective so you can zoom out. That's the language I love to use. Mm-hmm. I think I showed you the Pete Holmes clip of like, oh, you think you live in America? Zoom out.
Right.
You live on a rock floating in nothingness. And that nothingness is expanding. Mm-hmm. That perspective shift.
And everything that I saw, that I experienced in Southern California last week will wither. Mm. The Bentleys will wither.
That's right.
The Botox will wither.
Yeah.
Sag.
Gravity will win. You know what I mean?
So it was such a great way for our church to begin this journey in Psalms. And I think what you are going to preach on is very similar to what I'm going to take out of Psalm 27. Mm-hmm. And I briefly mentioned this when I preached on Thanksgiving, that Psalm 27 carried me through a crisis last year.
Yeah.
It has been the verses that I have spoken over myself, not once in a while, but every single day.
And even as a practice, like as a spiritual discipline, that's a discipline. Mm-hmm. To be able to see Scripture, to be able to see God's character, see these things to understand, and to speak them over yourself as a discipline that's needed, because we forget.
Yeah.
And because what you're doing is you're living out the replacement theory. You are taking the lies that the enemy is wanting to put in your head, and you are replacing it with truth. Where's that truth? In His Word.
Exactly. And I'm going to implore our church to memorize just 2 verses from this psalm, because exactly what you said, I will be driving to the office on a Tuesday morning, and I'm good. I'm feeling refreshed. I had a great time with God in the morning, and then all of a sudden the enemy comes in. Mm-hmm. And I have to work that muscle. Mm-hmm. And you're a golfer. You don't want to be you've played golf.
I love to play golf.
Yes.
Golfer?
Yeah. We don't want to be thinking about our swing thought.
No.
When we're swinging.
No,
you can't be trying to think of mechanics.
No.
So I can't be in that car thinking, how do I get out of this? It has to be an immediate
it's natural. It's ingrained into you.
Of saying, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Mm-hmm. Of whom shall I fear? Mm-hmm. The Lord is my stronghold. Of whom shall I be afraid? Mm-hmm. And then
it's you building what my counselor says, it's you building an anchoring statement. Mm-hmm. That whenever it comes, whenever the thing happens, mm-hmm. it's the automatic response mm-hmm. that's built into your brain to remind you that it's an anchor through the wave of whatever the circumstance is. Like he had a brain tumor, and it was messing with his eye, and it was benign, but they had to do all the surgery and the worry and all the things. And whenever the results come back or they're waiting on pathology, what he said was like, I just had to remind myself, God telling me I'm closer than your breath.
Yes.
And I love you more than anyone else ever has. Mm-hmm. And like those things carried him. And so whatever those anchoring statements, to find it in Scripture and to know these truths about God's mm-hmm. character, it will carry you in whatever situation you find yourself.
Yeah.
Naturally. You know what I mean?
Yes. And knowing that the thoughts that the enemy puts in your head, God would never put into your head.
Yeah.
So if I have one of those thoughts, my first instinct is, oh, that's not from the Lord. Mm. You, and I say this out loud in the car all the time. You would never tell me that.
That's good.
But here's what you will tell me.
That's good.
You are my light because you are light. You are my salvation, which in Hebrews, Savior.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
You are my Savior. And then there's a surprise at the end of that psalm.
Yeah.
But I'm going to hold on to that till July.
You got to show up.
Yeah.
That's what I love. One of the things that if I could sit across from any especially a young adult, but if I could sit across from anybody who is feeling like they're lost in life or they're struggling with some belief of themselves, what I would tell them is in Genesis 3, God looks at Adam and Eve and he says, "Who told you that?"
Yep.
And I think we're going to get to talk more about that in this coming season, but like that idea rings true all the time. Who told you that? Because it wasn't him.
Yeah.
It wasn't God.
Yeah.
So why are you holding on to that?
Yeah.
That's hard to break free from, but whenever you replace it with truth, you can.
Great conversation. We could go on for another hour.
Part 3. I'm just kidding.
As a matter, you're coming back. As a matter of fact, when we were walking over to the studio, which is in the main building of the Canton campus, you said 2 hours today.
That's right.
2 hour podcast.
I can go forever, man.
Okay.
Just use all the words.
All right. If you want a transcript of today's show, just write everything down. Unless you're on YouTube, and it's all written down for you.
Thank you.
Our producer is Brian Tamaro. Our video technician is the King, Kian Sadiji. Our key grip is Jakub Pushakovsky.
Nailed it.
Our assistant intern key grip.
New one.
Is Jakub Delahaz. Goes by Jacob, but, but we're going to call him Jakub.
You can do that.
Okay. Our head of doctrine and theology is theologian.
Here they come. Buckle up.
Brilliant. Chief evangelist is salvation. Our backsliding prevention officer is lukewarm. Our director of Swedish witnessing is Bjorn again.
That's the one, dude.
Yeah, that's the one. Our expert on Russian eschatology is pt.2. Our director of holiness is mortification. Our staff counselor is Les Moody. He's very busy.
It's too much, man.
Our giving coordinator is generosity.
Oh, my gosh.
Our nativity coordinator, she's from France, Bethlehem.
You think she's at Roland Garros right now?
She is. She is. Yeah, she loves the clay.
Coco just beat Madison Keys this morning.
Strong on clay.
Come on.
Terrible on hard court. The co-pastor, who was strong on clay and not good? Oh, Bjorn Borg.
Yeah.
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 Bjorn again.
It's too much, man.
Yeah.
All the current guys can play on any surface.
They can. And that was, tennis growing up. When there were American, he's got the U.S. Open hat on. Tennis growing up when you had Andre Agassi and Jimmy Connors and John McEnroe and Pete Sampras.
Michael Chang. I loved Michael Chang. He was a clay court specialist, wasn't he? He was my favorite person to watch as a kid.
Or was he Australian Open? Was he hard?
No, he was good at the French.
Yeah, he was good. Loved tennis. It'd gotten away from it a little bit.
Yeah, I picked it up the last 2 years.
Especially since the number one tennis player in the world's name is Sinner.
Currently.
I thought it was funny. Okay.
Hey, listen, it's a great segue back to the names.
It is. Co-pastors of plagues, Manny Locusts and Lance Boyles. Our sabbatical director is Trip Long. Our missional expert is Some Area. Our resident Trinitarian is Holly Spirit. Our strategist for the final battle, her name is Irma Gedden. Our resident prayer warrior is Neil Down. Our executive director of spiritual warfare is Demonic. Wait till you hear the new one for today.
Oh, no.
Our head of our new AI initiative is Artie Fischel. Our director of Old Testament covenants is Sir Comsize.
Wow.
He was knighted for that. Our video technician in charge of instant replay is Slow Moses.
Oh, slow.
Our director of basketball operations and prayer is Kareem Abdul-Jabez.
Wow.
Yeah.
You think they're going to have him on NBA on TNT? Inside the NBA?
I think so.
On ESPN?
I think so. I don't know what his name was before. It wasn't Lou Alcindor.
That's right. No.
And here's the new one. This is for you. This was created for you yesterday in the car on the way here. Chief Prophet and Jedi Master.
Oh, gosh.
You want to take a guess?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay. Obadiah Wan Kenobi. Obadiah Wan Kenobi.
Grow people, everybody.
We were keeping a chair open either for Elijah the Prophet or Pastor Jason.
Good job, Jason.
Woo! But he will be back next time for the live broadcast. Now, you won't be able to listen to it live, but we will record it live at Mission Camp. Make sure you have the app notifications turned on so you get those mission camp prayer prompts.
Yep.
The king has one more move. Trust God, take a nap.
Let's go.
See you next time.